Now moving on, we have Greg from the 360 Sports Network here to talk fantasy. We're just dumbfounded at the lack of running backs in the NFL.
Well, there really is not a lot of good, talented running backs. Going into the season, you had about maybe 5, 6 at the most, and then there's this huge drop-off.
Mm-hmm.
But what's happening, because of perhaps lack of practices early on or lack of conditioning, we're seeing a lot of the top players getting hurt. And the substandard players, I don't want to say substandard, but I just did, but the players that weren't up to the
second tier.
The second tier players, thank you.
No problem.
They're starting to pick up the pace and starting to fit into the system. And this is what kind of makes fantasy football all the more fun, I guess, trying to sit here and prognosticate and figure out, okay, DeMarco Murray, is he going to have another 253-yard combined performance? I mean, nobody expected this to be good.
Who do the Cowboys play this week?
Eagles.
The Eagles, thank you.
Then probably not.
Well, the Eagles have a pretty weak run defense.
The Eagles have been surprisingly not good.
On defense, yeah.
They did have a bye, and you would think that after now seeing what he can do, they would be prepared for that.
Ooh, and I just thought that Andy Reid's record coming off a bye is really, really good.
Right.
So,
but I bet he still gets over 100. Maybe not 250.
I would say.
I don't think he's going to go off like that.
No, that's like a once-in-a-lifetime game.
It would be safe to say DeMarco Murray will probably end up with $1.25, 125, and maybe a touchdown.
Which is awesome.
Right. For somebody to fill into a flex position, that's pretty good. And he's definitely a step above Felix Jones, so no doubt about that.
Yeah. And to start choice at this point, he's pretty much done in Dallas, wouldn't you say?
Tashard who?
That's what they say, too.
No. I would say that, something should happen to DeMarco Murray, Tashard Choice would be the person that they would be turning to. But, you don't know. You don't know.
That is true.
So,
all right, so tell us about some running backs that may be available in some leagues.
Yeah, I'm hurting here.
Yeah. The bye weeks come at the worst time, right?
Yeah, any bye week is the worst time.
Yeah, and, I looked at my lineup. I'm like, my goodness, there's a lot of holes. But I did a little bit of research. Deloney Carter would be a decent pickup for a flex position since, he seems to be the main back over there, and he's available in 94% of the leagues that are out there right now. And then, of course, you have Montario Hardesty, which no. Before you say pish posh and all that stuff, Ryan, he had 33 carries last week
for 85 yards.
But fantasy point wise, he scored 12.20 points. Now, with that said,
not in my league, you only got like 6.
Hey, that's 6 more than 0.
That's true. If I would have started him over McFadden, I would have won.
He's got a point.
Who knew?
He's got a point.
And the Browns,
he makes me sad.
The Browns really don't have a passing game. So,
oh, they don't.
So Montario Hardesty, with Hillis's hammy being the way it is, I would definitely look at Hardesty very, very seriously.
If I had to pick between Deloney Carter and Hardesty, because they're both available in my league,
I would probably go with Hardesty.
Oh, crap.
Now what? The Browns play the 49ers. The Colts are playing who this week?
They are at Tennessee. Now, Tennessee has given up a lot of fantasy points the last couple of weeks, whereas San Francisco has a great run defense.
That was kind of what I was going towards.
Yeah, and you want to play the defenses. You want to see who's got the stronger run defense. In that type of situation, probably Deloney Carter may be the stronger of the two. But Hardesty seems to be getting the bulk of the carries. And, this is a guy that's he had 33 carries last week. I mean, if this guy picks up an average of 3 to 4 yards a pop, 3 to 4 yards times 33.
Let me ask you something, Greg. When it comes to whether you play a tough defense or whether or not you get volume, it seems like Hardesty's playing against a tougher defense, but he's going to be getting the lion's share of the carries. But Deloney Carter seems to have the easier matchup, but you don't know if he's going to be getting the bulk of the carries. Which way do you lean?
Well, Carter, I would say is going to get the carries because what's his name is out.
Adai is still out?
Yeah, he's out.
Okay.
So he's going to get him. Now, Hillis is probable to play. So if Hillis plays, then there goes Hardesty's carries.
Right. I would go with whoever the lead back is who is out. I would actually lean toward that individual. For instance, Delaney Carter would probably be the safer of the two if I was to hedge one way or the other.
Okay.
Some other running backs, though, looking at availability, no Sean Marino. A lot of people ended up dropping him because he had some substandard performances there, especially with Willis McGahee. But Willis McGahee is injured. No Sean is the main back right now over there in Denver. DeMarco Murray, if he is available, shame on you for not picking him up.
Shame on you for not listening to Greg last week, because he had the arrow last week.
Yes, he did. And as Ryan said, follow the arrow. Combined 253 yards rushing and a TD last week. Will he do this again? I don't know, but I say he's going to be at least $1.25 and probably a touchdown against the Philadelphia defense. So he's a safe play. Bernard Scott out of Cincinnati. Cedric Benson, Sir Ced, is out for the his punishment. He's getting his hand slapped for, well, whatever he did. But nonetheless, I digress. But Bernard Scott is going to be carrying the rock out there, and he's got 98.8% availability throughout the leagues that I did some research on. Now, if you had Tim Hightower, and Tim Hightower was doing a great job until he got injured, you got to take a look at Ryan Terrain and Helu. Is that Roy Helu or Ray Helu?
It's Roy.
Roy.
Yeah.
Or Helu. No, but and then here's the thing: Shanahan likes to handcuff players.
He is the anti-fantasy guy
Yes,
when it comes to running backs.
If you are in a bind, look at Terrain.
Okay.
But if Terrain's not available, Helu is going to get the rock as well. And with that said, those two guys, one or the other, will probably get you at least 8 to 10 fantasy points.
Let me ask you something now. Let's switch to wide receivers. I have Eric Decker in 2 of my leagues, 2 of my pay leagues, but I saw Tim Tebow target Demaryius Thomas quite a bit when they were playing Miami. Is this a point? Should I pick up Demaryius Thomas and maybe drop Eric Decker, or should I just hang on to Decker and hope that Tebow starts throwing towards Decker?
This is something I am very big on trend analysis. And whenever you start seeing somebody getting a lot of looks, and I believe Demaryius Thomas had a touchdown last week.
He did have a touchdown.
Yeah. I think the writing might be on the wall here that Demaryius Thomas might be the guy to look at, and Decker may be the second guy, but we're not sure yet. Because if you have a player like Aurelius Ben, who had .20 points, and you have a choice of maybe dropping him to pick up Demaryius Thomas, this might not be a bad thing. Put this guy on the bench and see what he does. At least you have him, and at least you've taken him off the market, so somebody else can't grab him. So, but on wide receivers, if you're looking for some wide receiver help, you got Antonio Brown out there from Pittsburgh, 87.5% availability, and New England's pass defense is not that good. Antonio Brown is the second fastest receiver on the Steelers team, which means that he can get down there pretty quickly, and he put up a pretty good game last week.
Not for me, because he's not available.
Michael Crabtree, 56.4% availability out there. He had 16 receptions in the last 3 games. Going with the trend analysis again, that's something to look at.
But isn't Braylon Edwards coming back pretty soon? So would that chip into Crabtree's numbers a little bit?
It could, but once again, Braylon Edwards has never been a tour de force anyway.
Very true.
Michael Crabtree is the younger talent that is starting to catch fire, and Harbaugh usually goes with the player that produces.
The hot hand.
Yeah. Jamar Gaffney for the Redskins is another guy to take a look at on the receivers. 96.1% availability with Santana Moss out for several weeks. Gaffney is the new number 1 receiver out there. And you do not have to worry about platooning anybody with Gaffney because he is the main man out there. And, of course, Fred Davis. If you don't have Fred Davis, shame on you.
You've mentioned him the last couple weeks.
I have been mentioning Fred Davis since Shep was a pup. Yes. So, but, yeah, those are the wide receivers that I'd be looking at right now.
Okay. I guess one more question. Just going back to the wide receivers, and Antonio Brown, you said, is a good pickup, and I agree with Mike Wallace, of course, of the Steelers. What do you think of their third wide receiver, Emmanuel Sanders? How good of a pickup would that be?
He would be a pretty good pickup as well. The only trouble is it's hard to – you see, Ben Roethlisberger is not a good fantasy football player because he is unpredictable. You don't know who he's going to throw to. You're going to take a look and see who gets the most number of looks over there.
Mike
Wallace, okay. But then you take a look. Okay, Antonio Brown was getting a lot of looks. Mike Wallace wasn't getting a whole lot of looks. Antonio Brown seems to be trending more right now. Emmanuel Sanders, I'm not sure. But Emmanuel Sanders is also very speedy and very quick. If I had a choice, though, for a flex position on the receivers end, and I had a choice between Jabbar Gaffney and Emmanuel Sanders, I'd go with Gaffney, only because you're sure that he's going to be getting the looks, even though he's got a not so good quarterback and Beck tossing the rock to him. But nonetheless, he will get you some more points than, let's say, taking Sanders, who might only get 3 looks. Of course, maybe 1 of 3 looks and he gets 77 yards. Well, there you go.
We got to roll the dice, I guess.
But in fantasy football, it's what have you done for me lately, and who's going to produce the most number of points for you. So I would stay safe and go with the number 1.
One more question regarding the new quarterbacks that made their first start last week: Tebow, Christian Ponder, John Beck. Which one of those guys looks the brightest going forward towards the rest of the season?
For fantasy points, Tebow.
Okay,
but Christian Ponder has really he put a good game together. He impressed me. Beck, not so much.
All right, well said.
All right. Well, thanks, Greg, for all your help. Hopefully I can get some points out of a running back this week. I am banged up. The only good one I have right now is Darren Sproles.
Oh, wow.
And he's more of a tweener player, but boy, does he rack up the points.
Well, Darren Sproles will produce for you. You know what? Hardesty or Delaney Carter should take care of you.
I'm thinking about picking them up, both of them, because I could start one this week because I have Daniel Thomas in my flex.
Okay.
I don't know if I want to. That's really struggling for somebody.
And Miami's terrible.
They are.
There's another receiver out there, the Jacksonville receiver, Blaine Gabbert has been targeting. I believe his name is Hill.
I don't know.
Doesn't ring a bell.
I believe his name is Hill. He is the second or third receiver, but he got a ton of looks against Baltimore, and he had a pretty nice game. And that might be somebody else you might want to take a look at. I believe.
I'm trying. There's a lot of Hills. Maybe it's Jason. Yeah, Jason Hill.
Jason Hill is somebody that I would take a look at as well, because I looked at the number of pass attempts and the number of catches that this guy had against the Baltimore team. And the Baltimore defense is a good defense.
It's not Sisters of the Poor.
Yes, exactly. And Blaine Gabbert is starting to develop a connection there. And also Pierre Garçon. You have Curtis Painter out there who is a good quarterback. Not a good quarterback, but he's doing his best, but he's got that connection going with Pierre Garçon. So in something like that, if you have a John Beck or Curtis Painter or Blaine Gabbert or a new quarterback, look at who they're going to, and that receiver will get you some points, and that is somebody you could put into a third flex spot.
Okay.
All right. Thanks, Greg.
All right. Thank you.
All right.